Why did you connect with California? I mean, you could have gone to an airport and handpicked anywhere in the world and started to some degree again,
right?
But you chose to come here.
For me, honestly, I think like so many of my close friends are here. People from London who've moved here for work and stuff like that. It's like, I'd say since I left home, I've never really had the place that feels like, oh, that's my home. I'd say my house in London is the most homely that I feel anywhere. Just because I've been there the longest. I've been there for like 6 years now. With like all the touring and stuff that we did in the band, I remember there was one point where we'd been away for so long that I came home to my house in England, and I was home for about 5 days, and I walked in the door and I sat down and I was like, I don't know what to do like when I'm home at all. I'd been away for so long. I didn't, you know, I hadn't seen my friends for so long. I didn't know who was around. I was kind of like, who do I hang out with?
What is this strange reality? Yeah.
So there was a point, I guess, where I realized I was more comfortable being on the road.
So what'd you do after 5 days? Did you head back off again?
Yeah, and I was like happy to go. I was, you know.
I think it's actually understandable. I think there's something about that kind of gypsy lifestyle, which, in particular, the arts that make you travel, music and such, and the idea of having sort of a desire to be gypsy just by your very nature. They attract one another to some degree. I mean, were you always a little bit kind of adventurous as a kid? Were you looking further afield even when you were growing up?
I don't know if I was really. I had never been to London before I moved there, which is crazy to me to think about it now.
That is crazy.
You know, it's not that far away from where I grew up. It's like a 3-hour drive. But London was like where the rich kids went shopping on the weekend, like with their mum or something, you know? But also everything about it felt like it was like, this is a new challenge. And if it takes me to London, then
the whole thing seemed to me to just be a new challenge. It was crazy watching it kind of from a distance and watching what you and your friends were kind of going through and the whole thing. I mean, I suppose with the benefit of some wisdom and some age now looking back on it, you must even have a slightly different perspective than when it first ended in 2015. It's been 4 years and just kind of thinking what happened.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy now because there'll be times where people will remind me of stuff that happened that I forgot about. And you like relive it all over again. And you're kind of like, oh yeah, that was cool too. You know, the first 2 years you don't even feel like you're working at all because you're just so happy to not be going to school. And it's like, I get to do this, great, okay. And you kind of go from also like, you know when you're a kid and you see a t-shirt that you want and you like save up the exact amount.
Yeah.
But you'd have to account for like the postage and packaging, so you'd actually have to like save up for this amount. You know, you're kind of like doing this and then you move to London and you work doing stuff that's fun and you're like, can I buy this t-shirt? And someone's like, yeah, if you want. And you're like, okay. And that kind of feels like what life is like.
Then it just goes from t-shirt to flat, from flat to house to, if you know, you're lucky enough to have that kind of success. I mean, I'm interested to know 2 memories, and we're not going to stick around here for long because there's so much more to talk about. But while we're here, what was, now you've been away from that experience, what's the strongest prevailing memory you have before One Direction started? Like, what's the sharpest, most vivid memory you have in your mind before your life was tipped upside down? Yeah. Before everything changed. Because it was so sudden. I mean, it was over the course of, 10 weeks, and all of a sudden that's it. You're not going home again.
Yeah. I mean, probably like a birthday meal I had with some friends. I used to live next to a Chinese restaurant, and it was like my favorite restaurant. So I used to come home from school every day and I'd get up to my bedroom, like open the window and stick my head out.
To smell it.
Woo! You know? And that was like where I went for my birthday meals. But I'd say probably the biggest stuff would probably be, there was a river, it's called the River Dane, where, you know, everyone would go down in the summer and you'd buy those little disposable barbecues that you used to take, and someone would be in charge of like buying sausages and someone would have to buy the drinks.
Tin foil barbecues used to put on the beach.
Yeah, and you like put them on the floor and then you try and squeeze like somehow 12 sausages onto this like tiny thing.
Okay, what's the one prevailing memory you have today of that? Was it 4 years?
5.
5 years?
Yeah.
What's one that really jumps out?
One of my favorite memories. I'll give you 2. The first one was when we'd just been formed as a band, there was like a picture of us that had been taken from when we were at the show, like someone's mum had taken it. And it was like the first picture of us as the 5 of us. And we were staying at my stepdad's house. We were like living in this little bungalow, all of us together to like practice, and we were just like singing songs and basically just had a sleepover for like 4 days, and everyone drove down, and there's a tiny little like newsagents down the street, and we'd heard this picture was being put in the paper. So we were like, oh, we're gonna be in the paper. Like, that's crazy. So the 5 of us like left this little bungalow and walked down to the newsagents and got the paper, and then came back and had breakfast, and we're all just like sitting, staring at the paper and like passing around the paper, and we're like, let me see it again, let me see it again. And I don't know, I guess just because we just didn't know what was gonna happen.
It's a timeless image. That's a timeless image.
We were so happy about it.
That first real piece of like recognition when you realize that it's not a controlled environment anymore, like people that you don't know down the street can actually take a look at you or hear you, that's still, without a doubt, a life-changing moment for every artist I've ever spoken to.
Yeah, because it only happens one time too.
Oh, after that, everything kind of changes.
Yeah, because we were watching X Factor my family, we were at my cousin's house the day that my audition went on air. And, you know, we watched it and we're like, oh my God, that's crazy. And then we're driving home and we go to a petrol station to stop off and fill up. And I'm in the petrol station and this guy goes, were you just on X Factor? And I was like, yes, I was. But yeah, I'd say that. And then the other one, I guess, once the band had really started, was we were in Sweden recording What Makes You Beautiful in the studio. Someone came up into the room and was like, there's 2 girls outside. And we were like, why? And they're like looking for you. And we were all just like, but we're in Sweden, you know? So that was like another...
It's super innocent.
Same, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean...
That was kind of thing like, oh my God, that's so crazy. Like, we're in Sweden. How, you know?
Fast forward to the end of it and you are out here a few months afterwards, and like that decompression leading into the writing of the first album, right? Leading into your self-titled album. That idea of having some independence for the first time, really to kind of do whatever you want. How did that feel?
Pretty amazing, actually. I didn't really have a plan for like when I wanted to make a record. I knew I wanted to start writing at some point. And that's kind of why I came out here. And I started with Kid Harpoon. So Sweet Creature was the first song we did. That was like in my first writing sessions when I kind of started like, because up until that point, I'd done a lot of sessions with different people, and I tried to write with as many different people as possible just to feel like, just to like learn. I just wanted to learn. It was like, the best way I've ever heard songwriting described is like, it's kind of like surfing in that you can practice getting up on the board as much as you want, and sometimes the wave just doesn't come. Or the wave comes, but you haven't practiced getting up on the board enough. Every now and again, you've practiced enough and the wave comes, and that's when
you write that song. That's when it comes through. That's when the music, everything's in the right place.
So I kind of always wanted to be prepared to stand up on the board whenever the wave came.
Do you surf?
Not enough. I wish I surfed more. The waves out here are really intense. And I think the last time I surfed was here, and I got absolutely beaten up. I kept like flipping. It was terrible.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good look until you get in the water and you realize that you're a little out of your depth, literally. How important was friendship to you when you started out as well? Because you were trying out with, like you say, you were trying lots of different songwriters, but I felt like when the album finally came out, you found a tight group of friends who were more than just collaborators.
I'd say, to finish the thought, when I'd been writing in the band, it was kind of like, if I'd ever written stuff that was just with a friend or something, it was kind of like, well, I'm not gonna release any music, but what would it sound like if I was to write a song that was for me?
Was that a contractual thing, or was it just a loyalty to the band thing?
Just didn't really want to.
Yeah.
And definitely didn't have time to.
Yeah, right.
But I knew that like maybe one day I'd want to do it, but I wasn't like, I can't wait to get out of this thing so I can go and make my own record.
Yeah.
You know?
So did the end of it creep up on you?
A little bit. Well, I wouldn't say crept up. I guess the last year of it, we all kind of knew we were going to stop at the end of that year.
So how do you know? I mean, you know, it's this juggernaut, it's this non-stop.
Well, we would have like, we'd sit down and have conversations about like everyone good, everyone wants to keep going, and that kind of thing. And there was a part of me where I felt like all of the decisions I'd made as an adult that affected my life and what I was doing with my life had been made as a group. And I think there was a part of me that felt like I wanted to make some decisions for myself, where it was like, you never really had to make the decision, because I could put my hat in the ring but still be like, oh, well, majority rules and I got outvoted. I felt like I need to make some decisions that just affect me.
You know, Zane already did that and he bounced out mid-tour, and I think it was pretty amazing you guys saw that tour through for fans. I think there's probably a wobbly 24 hours for people where they thought, well, that's going to start something.
Right.
But looking back on it now, like, how challenging was that to complete that tour and to see that through, and how, you know, how impactful was that decision for him to not see it through to the end?
Yeah, I mean, it was hard, you know. Part of it was, it was kind of like, we were sad, obviously, that someone had left, but also sad that he was not enjoying it so much that he had to leave. Because I think at the time, too, the tour and everything was going so well, and everyone had kind of got to this place where everyone was kind of living in a way where they, I think, felt pretty good while
enjoy
touring.
it. Yeah, like enjoy it. Yeah.
It felt like everyone was kind of enjoying it, and yeah, I'd say a big part of it was us kind of being like, wow, we didn't realize he wasn't enjoying it that much, you know. You know, obviously there was big moments for us where we were like, what are we doing? You know, so we were about to start recording a new album and stuff, and it was like, are we recording this without him? But I'd say in the moment, I guess the four of us became closer, because we were like, okay, this is a hurdle that we weren't expecting. And I think you deal with this in many different places when you're with like traveling and touring, and it's a demanding thing and not everyone likes doing it. But it's kind of like, if someone's not enjoying it, you'd rather they don't do it.
That's why contracts are strange to me. Like, I understand there's a desire to do them when there's a lot of money involved, and in particular when there are certain businesses that really work, but in the arts and things that are creative, like, I never understand of keeping people against their will. Like, you're not going to get good work out of it.
I never get that with like the record deal stuff, where it's like, why would you know, like when people like won't release people from contracts and stuff, it's like, why would you want a begrudged employee in the creative space? Like an artist,
I don't get
to make stuff for you when they don't want to make stuff. It seems like completely counterproductive to me. But I mean,
you know,
I'm also not a businessman, so.
You're doing it right in that department there, so you've got some good instincts. You know, you hire well.
I don't know if, maybe. I'd say my gut is the only thing that I do trust in terms of people.
That's really important, right? I mean, there's only two rules you should really live by: instinct and diligence, right? One gets you into the room, the second one makes you double check and make sure you should stay there.
I can also tell, because the times where I've ever been like really, really upset by people is when I'm more upset with myself when I've got it wrong.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I feel like I'm a pretty good judge of character. And that's the only time I feel myself get really upset with stuff like that, is where you're like, oh, I trust this person, or, you know, I feel like they're a good thing, and then it goes the other way and you're kind of like, I got that wrong. And then I end up like really bummed out about it for a while. But,
yeah, that's classic hard on yourself syndrome, to be honest with you, you know, taking other people's bullshittery and blaming yourself for it. It's like, that's therapy 101.
Right,
therapy 101. Have you tried that, therapy? I love it.
Yeah, I have, actually, yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. I think for a really long time, especially when I started coming to California, there was a big thing for me where I felt like everyone went to therapy.
They do.
Right, and I think for a long time I was like, I don't need that. You know, it's very like British way of looking at it, I think. And then I think there was a point where I kind of was trying to work out a lot more stuff about myself, because obviously then it was just me working.
On your own, yeah.
And I think it kind of comes with, when you're trying to make music, it's so navel-gazing. You're just like making an album, I feel like, is the most self-indulgent time you can think of, really, because you're just like,
oh, if you didn't have the opportunity to share it, if you didn't actually finish and share it with us, it would be narcissism of the most epic order.
Can you imagine you just make like an album
just
to yourself
it,
and then you don't release it?
It's like, therapy, I suppose, in a weird way. But then we get the trade. That's what we get, is we get the trade on it. We get all that kind of navel-gazing, as you put it, and that self-reflection somehow forms this magic shape that we get to apply to our own lives. And then we become narcissistic because we say, well, Harry's speaking to me.
Right.
So I get to apply it to my life, right?
But yeah, I think with the therapy thing, I just realized I was just getting in my own way. You know, it's been a thing where I've definitely felt it have an impact on my life, and something that I've kind of introduced some friends to who were going through stuff, and they were very skeptical about it.
I would assume you're a good friend, you're a loyal person.
Try to be.
Yeah. So who are some of your best friends? Who are the people that help you through these times, that are some of the people that you know really, that you're close to?
I'm pretty lucky, actually, with that stuff, because, and it's probably why I didn't go to therapy earlier, is because I have those friends where I'll have the same conversation that I would have with a therapist. I was at this talk thing where Alan de Botton was talking, and he was talking about how, like, real friendship is just built on vulnerability. The second you open up to someone with, like, a real thing is when you actually get to know someone. So I definitely got, if there was someone that I was friends with and I felt like, oh, I want to be, like, close to them, just open up really kind of straight away. And doing that has definitely caused me to become much closer with, like, just people, just all of my friends in general, I'd say.
How did you feel about when you started on this new album, right, on Fine Line? Had your opinion changed about your self-titled debut? Were there things that you felt in the heat of the moment, in the process of coming out of One Direction and making a solo record, that you would do differently, or that you felt that album didn't quite achieve?
When I, like, listen to the first album now, I can hear all of the places where I feel like I was playing it safe, because I just didn't want to get it wrong. I just didn't want to get it wrong.
You started with a mid-tempo 7-minute single, bro.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't that safe, to be fair.
Yeah. Apart from that.
Carry on.
But I guess a big part of going into this album was I spent a lot of time kind of thinking about the whole process of, you make an album, and then you put it out, and you know, kind of release it, and then you tour it, and all of the bits that I didn't enjoy as much, I kind of went into the second one feeling like I want to work out how to make all of this feel really fun.
So that's why you drank margaritas and did mushrooms.
Yeah, I guess. I think it was kind of like...
And moved out to Malibu.
I had this moment where I was like, I would rather not do it than do it and it not be fun. Making this album was all about freedom.
Yeah, of course. Sounds it.
I had a big moment of, I guess, through the whole making of this record, I was kind of trying to redefine what success meant to me. for so long, especially in the band, it was like every album got bigger and every tour got bigger, and it was like always growing. And I think when I went to make the first record, it was kind of freeing because I felt like, well, I don't have to do this anymore. You're still like, well, if the last band thing was this and then your first thing is
everyone's
this,
lined up to judge. Everyone is lined up to judge. Like you come out with that first album and it doesn't smash it. It's like, oh, well, I guess out of the band, it's a no-go, right?
Right.
And so for me, when that album came out, I felt that you already were kind of redefining success in your own terms because you went and connected with your audience, it felt to me at least, like in a very real way. Like you went back to trying to really connect with people. Right. You can't connect in a baseball stadium.
Right. That was a thing that I'd always said I wanted to do when we kind of started, and when we started doing the music, it was like, kind of said to my manager, like the first tour that I do, I want it to be really small. And then I guess with this one, it was like, I just wanted to have fun. I just wanted to have so much fun.
That's what success is. That's where you landed on the redefinition of success.
Yeah, and one of my friends kind of said, if you're happy doing what you're doing, then nobody can tell you you're not successful. I mean, it's so obvious, but it's also the kind of thing where probably 4 years ago, if someone had said that to me, I'd be like, okay.
Because you were too busy making everybody else happy.
And also, I guess, when I was in the band, there was a big thing of, because we would make, the last 3 records we made on the road, and I had friends who were musicians who I knew would they would tour, and then they would take 6 months off to go and make a record.
Into a process.
And I used to be like, oh my God.
You can do that?
What, so you're just making, that's it? That's all you're doing.
You're
right
in
now.
room 1607.
You're just making
at the Marriott in Hong Kong, trying to nail a vocal.
Like 4 mattresses and one over the top. Yeah, exactly. On the last 2 tours as well, we bought this old surveillance van and converted it into a studio so it would follow the tour around. So at the venue, you'd go into this tiny little surveillance van that had no air conditioning.
What, you and One Direction would go in the back, we'd recorded songs in the back of a van on the road.
So we had
That's the bossiest shit.
Yeah.
So people are walking past the van, they've got no idea.
Well, it'd be in the venue.
In the venue, right, okay. Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's fun to record it like that. It's just a totally different process.
The album starts with Golden, which is you said before, that vulnerability is the way to great friendship, and I feel like that song establishes that. I mean, there's a lot of I know you're scared, but man, I'm just gonna tell you the truth. I feel like that's what that song is about. It's kind of, and it sets the stall out for the album too. It's a very personal album.
Golden, we wrote on day 2 of being in Shangri-La. That was kind of and immediately as soon as we'd done it, it was oh, this is track 1.
You knew it.
Right.
I love that feeling. It's one of the best parts of making a record is making the track listing up as you go.
Because I always end up with track 1 and the last track. And then you're okay, let's see what.
So you knew Fine Line would be the last track?
Yeah, as soon as we
Did you know it was the album title as well?
No.
It's such a powerful piece of music. We can skip to the end if you want. That's that is one of my favorite songs of the year. I mean, that's a stunner, man.
Golden came really early, and then I used to drive from here to the studio and listen to it. And it's kind of as soon as we had it, Golden was the perfect PCH song.
Magic.
You know, it's driving down the coast. It was just, that is what the song is for. It feels so Malibu to me, that song.
I heard that the first person you played the full album to was Liam Gallagher. Is that true? One of the first people?
Yeah, I guess by accident,
So what happened?
Well, he was in, we were working in a studio in London, and he was we were kind of trying to finish up, and he was in the studio next door. He came in at, I can't remember how it happened, but he kind of just ended up.
It was the first time.
Yeah, it was the first time. He kind of just ended up in there listening, which was crazy. You know, I was a massive Oasis fan growing up. And then he invited us all over to go listen to his record, and we listened, and we all had fish and chips and talked and stuff, and he's cool.
I'd imagine Watermelon Sugar would have been a standout for him. I don't know why. It just kind of feels like that's his vibe.
That was, I don't even know if we, yeah, maybe we played in that. But none of that stuff was finished. I don't think that had horns on it yet.
Right.
Lights Up, I don't think was written. Lights Up, Adore You, Treat People, and yeah, those 3 I think hadn't been done yet. They were all the last week, basically.